All right, so Katlego was there for us yesterday. He's back at Silverton once again for a sense of how things are unfolding. As you can see, joining us now live. Katlego, I'm hoping you are able to hear me. Perhaps get us in on what took place yesterday as we take stock of the dynamics on day 2 of the strike.
A very good morning to you, Ayanda, and to our viewers at home. Day 2, really just seeing the workers upbeat about continuing with the strike action here on the ground. Still coming to you live today on day 2 of this demonstration outside of the Ford offices in Silverton, this week in Pretoria. We're seeing the workers, about 3,000 of them belonging to Numsa, down in tools, just calling for just profit sharing from the company, a matter that was entertained by the court yesterday in the afternoon, as we saw Ford move to launch an urgent court interdict to try and block this strike from continuing. The workers right now are just in good spirits, singing on the ground, joined by their leaders and office bearers. And notable today is that SABC, the mother body to Numsa, is here as a federation giving support to the workers that are demonstrating on the ground. And really, when you look at it, at the heart of what they're talking about is the fact that they want to strike because they're not happy with the fact that the company has been making profit, and these profits are not shared with the workers. But we saw the company yesterday arguing in court that whatever that they're calling for has not really been admitted or signed for in principle in terms of what then the company is expected to do in terms of the profits that are accumulated here in the company. Also talking about the fact that some of what they're calling for can be accommodated and has been accommodated in the agreement that was signed for in 2022 at the National Bargaining Forum. But Numsa really quick to dismiss that, to say that what was there in that agreement had nothing to do with the profit sharing. Hence they wanted the court to really try by all means to intervene here, to give them that opportunity to strike so that the employer can come back to the bargaining table, speak to them, because this is a matter that we saw Ayanda even ending up at the CCMA. What I can tell you right now in terms of what is happening on the ground is that on my right you see the police that are there on standby, just looking at really manning the gates of this operation, this facility here in Pretoria. But then on my left, which is what you're seeing on your screen right now, these are the workers of Ford that are demonstrating outside. They're waiting to hear from their office bearers, Ayanda, this morning in terms of what came out of court yesterday, waiting in anticipation. They were supposed to be or expected to be briefed by 8 o'clock in the morning, but that has since been moved to this hour, whereby they'll be addressed by their office bearers in terms of whether the strike action is going to be continuing, looking at what the court has decided from yesterday, or whether then they're going to just the drawing board, back to the drawing board in terms of trying by all means to organize further and see how then they are going to be looking at demonstrating, continuing really with what they've been calling for over time. There's been issues of profit sharing. We hear that the company last year alone, it made about $25 billion, this being in accumulated profits. And they're saying that over the past 3 years, we've been seeing the company also making profit after profit after profit, no loss. And they want that to be reflective of the workers that they say have been struggling to make ends meet, looking at the economy. I'm going to bring SABC into the conversation. With us is Trevor Shaku, who's the spokesperson of SABC. You are the mother body to Numsa, and you even issued out a statement yesterday saying that you are supporting what is happening here on the ground today. You are here with the workers and really trying by all means to get the employer to come through and speak to the workers, looking at what they've been calling for, the process of profit sharing. Maybe give us a sense of how important would it be that the company negotiates and that the profits are split with the workers that are demonstrating here?
Sure. Look, at the basic core of our demand and the demand of workers is that every time when we see surpluses which leads to accumulation and business growth by many of these business enterprises under capitalism, it is because of the labor that is rendered by the working people, that there is no additional surplus value except that it is created by the working people. So we do not think that it is good that the company only rakes in profits and shares them with the shareholders and as dividends, but without sharing such particular amounts with workers. We think that workers are entitled to this because they alone are responsible for the creation of the value that eventually makes out these particular profits. If you look at the company, Numsa has pointed out that there's about 25 billion in gross profits which was made last year. And remember, when we go for negotiations and when we go for wage and remuneration packages, we're actually negotiating on the basis of what the company has made in the past. This is based on the past earnings of the company. Now that on its own is a testimony that, or a testament rather, that the company can be able to afford these things. But secondly, even if you were to look at the net profit after taxation, interests, amortization and depreciation has been factored in, the company still made about 9 billion to 10 billion. So that is a demonstration that indeed there is money that Ford has made, and this money is on the back of the exploitation of our workers, and therefore they're entitled to a share of it.
Give us a sense of really then what the workers have been communicating with you around what has been happening in the company, because we had yesterday them talking about how they're not even able to engage with us here on the ground because they've really not been getting joy from the company in terms of airing their views and their challenges where issues of wages are concerned. And also let's touch on the issue of the bargaining forum, because that is where one would expect for some of these things to be thrashed out. We see Numsa coming through to say they're supplementing what was agreed upon in 2022 to say that right now we need to see the profit sharing clause being added there, and these workers then afforded what they rightfully deserve. Even this was argued in court. What are the challenges of the workers? What are they struggling with? And the bargaining forum, let's talk about that as well.
Look, firstly, if you look at the executives of the company, we can see that the executives are getting a lot of bonuses. Now, if you are to basically look at what have already been explained both by myself here but also by the Numsa leadership yesterday about not only the bonuses that have been given to the executives of the company, but on the basis that it is the workers who are creating the wealth. Indeed, we think that the basic principle that ought to apply is that there ought to be the sharing not only just of the profit but of the surplus. That means even before the partitioning of the profit itself, the surplus itself must be factored in ensuring that workers get a fair share of it. And if you look in this country, for instance, from 1992 onwards, you'll realize that the surplus value share of profit, or the share of surplus that goes to profits, has actually been on an upward trend compared to the workers' earnings, which have gone which have declined steadily. Now, this is a demonstration that over the years, workers have actually been making losses, or rather getting less of what they make. And therefore, the demand by Numsa is very sensible and is very basic. And we do not understand why the company is unrelenting on meeting this particular basic demand that workers have made, but also why in the first place they dragged this, because the president yesterday made a point that this matter has been in the bargaining council for 2 years, which means that the union has given enough time to this issue for consideration by management, but management has refused. But management is merely refusing because it wants to act capitalistically, which is to say that the only purpose of businesses is to make profits, and those profits must be made at the back of workers without sharing equitably those particular earnings with the workers themselves. So workers, in our view, are justified to demand the share of this surplus, the share of the profits that have been made, and we think that they have to continue unrelenting themselves here, because they've declared an indefinite strike. Until management make concessions, the workers must not pull back.
Is this the start of something new within the labor space that we are seeing being introduced, industry-wide, whereby going forward, when you are going to be bargaining and sitting on the bargaining table with the employers, that you now would want to see this clause around profit sharing being something that is standardized? Is this something that we may most likely see going forward, whereby all of these industries are concerned, the issue of profit sharing? Because it looks like really we hear Numsa saying it's a phenomenon that is not new in terms of what has been happening globally. Is this something that you're going to be introducing, going into different of these bargaining forums as we go into the financial year?
So look, indeed, this is the way forward. And remember, our job as trade unions is to ensure that we lessen the exploitation. Now, what is exploitation? Exploitation is the unpaid labor of workers. In other words, that amount that is cooked at the end of the production, at the end of circulation, at the end of the turnover, that money that is made by that particular company is what actually has been created by workers there. And therefore, any amount of it that is not paid to workers is what actually constitutes exploitation. It's an economic category that has to be dealt with. And now we are glad that it is being factored into the negotiations to say that in order for us to lessen the amount and the rate of exploitation, we are going to have to lay claim on the surplus value, on the profits that have been made by the companies themselves. So it is, of course, an old debate that has been taking place from the old debates of classical economy with the first proletariat in Britain. But of course, it has been a constant struggle. I mean, any form of package that workers have fought for in terms of remuneration is actually a struggle for that particular surplus. Now, if we are adding this element into these negotiations, we are actually helping the struggle to make workers realize that we cannot stand exploitation and we've got to lay claim on any produce that has been made by our hands.
Trevor, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Let me let you go. The office bearers any moment from now will be addressing the workers in terms of the outcome. I didn't want to press Trevor much about what came out of court because they are playing it close to their chest in terms of just revealing this to the media before addressing the workers. But we see the process moving from now to the podium, and this is where then in an hour or so we'll have an indication of where to from here, where the strike action at Ford is concerned. Ayanda, back to you in studio for now.
All right, Legodi, thanks very much indeed for that. Certainly a developing story sharply on our radar, and we'll keep watching it as it continues to unfold. Katlego live to us there from Pretoria.